Good morning and welcome to this WildHome presentation. It is the morning of the 24th of September and I'm going to run through a presentation that I did for a residents group in Pill last weekend. Just to talk about what we're up to, a bit of background for the project, and to try and get working with local people to give them options about developments that could be built in their area, rather than just having these large developers come in and say that this is the only option. This is a very quick presentation giving an introduction to me and the project. My background is that I began my career at Yangu Architects, which is a RIBA award-winning architectural practice. I then gained a Master's in Construction Project Management from UWE. I then moved on to Vectorworks, where I was a technology advisor for architectural practices, talking them through workflows and building information modelling, setting them up with 3D visualizations and various things. I then went travelling for a couple of years, worked in a lot of factories, got interested in lean manufacturing. When I came back, I became a technical coordinator for WildHome and then a senior technical coordinator for WildHome. This is effectively an office-based project manager that organises all of the information and consents, so all the drawings and the permissions for construction projects. So I've kind of seen how a housing development kind of starts from the very beginning, right, and then sort of been involved right to the very end, the adoptions and the handovers. I left WildHome when they got taken over by Barratt's or merged with Barratt's to become a technology and macro investor, which is something that I've been doing as a side project for 10 or 15 years or so. Seeing the kind of corruption in the financial markets that was, very naked, if you're kind of looking for it, I founded WildHome to try and do something positive in the kind of industry that I know. So I wrote the WildHome white paper, which sets out the principles of nature first housing development. So this was an exercise to try and completely rethink what a housing development looks like when we elevate the importance of nature and community right to the very top. The principles are rewilding, a car-free environment, although we do provide parking, ideally through a cross-laminated timber car park, a pedestrian timber walkway to allow wildlife to pass underneath, space-sufficient homes, which is through various construction methods, which I'll talk about later. And then the site is managed through a community land trust who manage the site and the rewilding going forward. So this is a table from the WildHome white paper that shows how we can achieve 70% rewilding on a housing estate, which is significantly higher than I think the 15% biodiversity net gain that is required by law, which housing developers are struggling to meet. The first thing is the housing footprint is reduced by building 3-storey homes and co-housing arrangements. So these would be for older people. You could have multiple homes feeding onto shared facilities such as like kitchen, living room. But there's also a lot of interest in providing these sort of facilities for multi-generational groups, so people who would prefer to live in that kind of nuclear group. Also looking into whether we can provide that for like students or young professionals. I think a lot of people struggle with the amount of maintenance that's required on modern homes. Especially if they've got families and jobs and so on. So gardens are reduced. They're eliminated via communal spaces and balconies, potentially green roofs. Infrastructure is massively reduced because the centralised car park means we don't need roads. The raised timber walkways mean that the ground isn't touched. Public open space, everything therefore kind of becomes property of the community land trust, which is owned by all of the residents. So, play equipment can be sort of natural play equipment dotted around the site. And then rewilding green spaces is maximised. So how could that look? And this was a very early layout that I did, showing some of the principles. So if you imagine that the road was along the bottom of the site here, we then have the 3-storey cross-laminated timber car park where people can park their cars. You can then have sports pitches on the roof. I suggest the climbing wall could be on one of the sides. You could have green walls. There are lots of options there. You then have the timber walkway around the site, feeding some of those co-housing blocks that I mentioned before. There's some more over here. There's a sauna and a cold plunge. There's a cafe, a nursery, a gym. So sort of a lake space, like a public park space, and then a variety of 3 and 4 bed houses. And crucially, each development is going to have no more than 150 residents. This is based on Dunbar's number, which is the amount of people that any single person can know. As soon as you go above that, people become strangers. And in order to foster a healthy community, we want to keep these developments on the smaller side, so between 100 to 150 people. But that can vary depending on the development, and the facilities would depend on who wants to get involved. So we would want input from residents as early as possible to see what facilities they would need. So this is a modern or traditional housing estate, and you can see that there's virtually no public open space. There's a couple of bits of grass, but then they're not really going to be used by anything. There's a massive road, there's loads of cars, no people, but a lot of tarmac and paving. And this is more what we are going for. Now these are AI generated images, so they're not perfect, but I quite like this one on the right because it shows timber walkways. You've then got this paved area in the middle, where you can have some sort of allotments, maybe a bit of seating. We've got some really nice looking homes here. They're probably, in reality, they're not going to be on piles this high. They want to be slightly lower to the ground, although, who knows? Other important information. So WildHome has an evolving cooperative structure, including 35% equity reserved for local charities and organisations. So the first 2% has been given to Natural Academy, who are an eco-psychology organisation based up near Pill, just outside Bristol. And they are managing a rewilding project, excellent organisation. But I'm looking to give out more. I've offered some to the Avon Wildlife Trust and a couple of other organisations. I think they're holding on a little bit to see how the project develops. The digital cooperative structure is available on the website. I have set up, or I will be setting up as a commercial company, because I believe it's the optimal structure for regulations. I think a lot of kind of community build organisations set up as social enterprises or non-profits or some variation of that, and they seem to really struggle raising finance, and sort of they're constrained with a lot of regulations. So even though WildHome is intended to be community based and sort of a very socially conscious organisation. We think that a commercial company is the best structure for that. Southwest Investment Group have expressed an interest in providing an SME loan up to 250k. I've been looking into ways that we would be able to spend that money, so I'm not applying for that just yet, but I think the more advanced the project is, the more chance we have of securing that loan. Every development will be unique. We want to start involving local residents as early as possible to provide required amenities, and we will start with what is needed, not how much it costs. I'm a digital optimist, or just an optimist. I believe that it's normally pretty easy to figure out technical issues. If you think of someone designing the latest bit of technology, like a new laptop or something, they wouldn't start by looking at what's been done before and saying, well, that's all we're able to do, or maybe just slightly improve on that. They would say, what can we build and how can we build it that good? Start with what is possible, and then figure out the details later. We are researching co-housing as a way to combat loneliness, and I believe we are the first and only commercial eco-village builder in the UK. These projects, they tend to be either run by architects or by community land trusts, and they're well intentioned, but it's just one development and then that's it, which is a real shame, because when you have the volume house builders who are able to churn out site after site after site, and there really needs to be an organisation that can do the same thing, but for eco villages which are built to a much higher standard for people's well-being and for nature as well. And there really is demand for it. So many people I spoke to express interest in it, and it's not particularly complicated. There just doesn't seem to be an organisation which has the structure to actually build lots of these developments. So there's a few sites I'm looking at, but when I was looking at those sites, I realised that there's still a lot of things that, even though I can make everything work quite well on site, because there's a reliance on infrastructure, roads and cars and loans and affordability, there's a lot of things that can't be controlled and could potentially undermine the project. So I've started working on something I'm calling the 150k housing project to try and get ahead of those issues. So the houses will be built on screw or micropile platforms. These are recyclable, and they're like corkscrews that just go into the ground. You can build your platform on that, and you can put pretty much whatever house you like on it. Can't be too heavy, and lightweight is our friend on this one. This minimises ground disturbance. There's not a load of concrete in the ground, and so it's a lot more sustainable. We're looking at the WikiHouse shell, which is an open source timber frame panelised design solution. So this can be designed, so I'll just show you the website for this. So this is built using CNC machines like this one here. So it's cut out in sections, and then it can be assembled like this on a site. So we're looking at what's called a flying factory, which allows for lower costs and higher quality assurance. So this would be a factory that would be a temporary structure that could be put on site and be weatherproof and provide space for the CNC machines and storage of materials, so we can manufacture the homes on site, which really brings down costs, especially on large sites. So the larger the site, the better. And for anyone wondering about the 150 resident limit, if we had a larger site, then we would do multiple villages within that site. So 1,000, 5,000 homes is not out of the question. And actually, the more homes we build, the cheaper those houses will become. It also means that you're not transporting sort of not delicate, but you're not transporting things on the back of a lorry. It means it's going to get to site in better condition because it's been built on site. It's not exposed to the elements. It can be assembled very quickly. And because it's an open source software, people can design their own houses as well. So there was a development in the Netherlands called the Strip Maker. So that's this one here, and each of these houses is slightly different, all built with the WikiHouse system. There's also a development in London which you can look at. So it's very flexible and will allow people to get involved in what's been built from very early stage. And from speaking to the Bristol Community Land Trust, it seems that the earlier people get involved in their houses and their development, the more interested they are in getting involved in how that development is run going forward. So the houses will be finished by the occupiers. Again, this brings down the costs, allows for a high degree of flexibility about what people want to build. There will be a district heating network. There'll be solar panels on the roofs of all the buildings, which will feed into a district heating network. It will be connected to the grid so that any surplus could be fed back into the grid. So drainage as well could be dealt with on site, feeding into reed beds. And every village will be as self-sufficient as possible, including but not limited to a nursery, a gym, a community kitchen, local shop, play equipment. So I had a look at some potential sites, and being completely honest, what I've set up is really good for green, or what's being classified as greyfield sites under this new Labour government. It's one of the reasons why I started it when I did, because I thought, well, there's all this building that's going to be happening on greenbelt land. We should be trying to return as much of that land to nature instead of farmland or tarmac. So there is the North Somerset local plan, which lists a lot of sites. I'm looking at sites in Bristol and North Somerset, which is the areas that I know quite well. This is an example site. So it's in Portishead. It's by Weston Big Wood, and this is a site. This is a site that I believe some housing developers may be applied for planning permission for, but not being able to get planning permission for because of the proximity to the wood. There's a lot of objection to greenbelt land, but I thought that this actually gives WildHome a great opportunity to demonstrate our eco credentials, because we could build on one of the sites around Weston Big Wood and actually increase the size of the wood. We could provide facilities such as a forest therapy centre, a woodland education centre. So there's maybe even like an event space for Portishead, this large area up here. So I was going to do this like really extravagant development where we had like a food truck court and like an outside stage and some sort of temporary like tents that could go up, and then it can kind of be this like entertainment space for the whole of Portishead. I realised I was biting off a little bit more than I could chew at the moment, and I didn't want to ruffle too many feathers too early. So I just identified this site down here. This is a 2-hectare parcel, which is the perfect size for the development that I showed you earlier. So we could do something similar to that on that parcel. And once we've kind of worked out how it would look, you can then just apply the same principle. So you could apply one village here, then this site would have 2 villages, and then you can have sort of a village here and a village, It's very low cost, affordable and quick to build. And the self-sufficiency of the villages would mean that there's minimal increase in traffic and strain on existing infrastructure. This site down here avoids central Portishead. It's not in the middle of a residential area, so it feeds back on to the B3124, which avoids central Portishead, so it's not adding too much traffic. So relatively speaking, it's a nice site to be starting to look at. And just say that there's a new national forest planned around Bristol and North Somerset. So there's potentially a big PR opportunity here to show that if we can contribute, 2/3 of our sites back to woodland, back to nature, then we can really get involved with helping this forest. Anyway, before I move on from the land, while speaking to this residents group, we ended up identifying another couple of sites that were quite interesting. So this is the map that is linked to the North Somerset local plan, and this shows a lot of sites that are already they've already got dibs on by developers, but I've been asked to propose a development for this site here, because the people of Pill, there's 1,500 signatures already on a petition objecting to development in Pill, but they've said if there's going to be development anywhere, then this is the least offensive site to them. So if I can propose a development on there and potentially increasing the width of the Markham Brook and this forested area here, then they would potentially support that. There's also another site. This is council and land owned. So land owned by North Somerset Council, and it was interesting to see that. So there's St Catherine's School, but there's a piece of land next to it which is owned by North Somerset Council. So if North Somerset Council were involved, then we could potentially build on this, and under the joint venture structure that I proposed in the 150k housing project, we could actually make a fair amount of money for North Somerset Council. So this is potentially a really interesting opportunity for them. At the moment, access is a bit of an issue, but they own this area here. This is part of the school, but it's just there's a little bit of car park. It's kind of overflow car parking, so it wouldn't be too difficult to just cut a little bit of that off and then maybe give some other land back to the school, or contribute some sort of play equipment as a sort of compensation. And it's also got a really nice access point here, which wouldn't be great for cars, but for bikes would then put you onto the cycle path that follows the river all the way into Bristol around Lee Woods. Is really lovely cycle. So for a lot of eco-minded individuals, that's potentially a really nice site. So I'm working on proposals for both this site here and on the opposite side of the road as well. So both of those are looking really nice. They will work really well with the WildHome principles, and so I've tried to run through that as quickly as possible because the meeting the other day ran on for quite a few hours. It still managed to take me 25 minutes, so appreciate it if you've made it this far. Well done, and thank you. I'm going to be working on those sites this week and next week. I'm working with a Part 1 architect graduate who is working on some of those co-housing solutions, and a couple of other students I'm starting to talk to, and they seem to be a lot more open-minded about how housing developments would look, which is really positive, because when I started out, I was trying to work with a lot of people in the industry, and they just want to build things the same way they've done for the last 20 years. So what's next? There is a WhatsApp group. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not part of the WhatsApp group, send me an email at rob@wildhome.life, and I can add you to the WhatsApp group. I'm going to start doing a weekly update on YouTube, and I'm going to do a weekly Teams meeting. Whether it's just the Teams meeting that gets uploaded to YouTube will depend on whether people are happy to be on YouTube, but I want to be as open as possible because this, I want to build in public, and for this to be as open source as possible to get as many people involved as the WildHome Digital Cooperative document sets out. Looking for ideas and partners who are able to help us find land and sort of contribute to the designs. Bit of a caveat, just say everything is considered a work in progress. And, a lot of ideas that I've proposed so far haven't worked, and we've moved on something different. A lot of people like to pick holes in projects like this, and, sure, not everything's going to work, but, it is evolving, and over time more and more things are sort of coming together. So, it is really encouraging, and I would encourage people to, if they're not sure about something, ask, and, if there's something I'm not 100% sure of, then, we can figure out what the solution is. There's more information on wildhome.life. And that's everything. Thank you very much for coming along, and hope to see you next week. Bye.